Part 3, 1960. Chapter 9, Dede, 1994 and 1960. When Dede next notices, the garden's stillness is deepening. Blooming dark flowers, their scent stronger for the lack of color and light. The interview woman is a shadowy face slowly losing its features. And the shades of night begin to fall, and the traveler hurries home, and the campesino bids his fields farewell, Dede recites. The woman gets up hurriedly from her chair as if she has just been shown the way out. I didn't realize it was this late. No, I wasn't throwing you an indirecta, Dede laughs, motioning the woman to sit back down. We have a few more minutes. The interviewer perches at the edge of her chair as if she knows the true interview is over. That poem always goes through my head this time of day, Dede explains. Minerva used to recite it a lot those last few months when she and Mate and Patria were living over at Mama's. The husbands were in prison, she adds, for the woman's face registers surprise at this change of address. All except Jaimito. How lucky, her guest notes. It wasn't luck, Dede says right out. It's because he didn't get directly involved. And you? Dede shakes her head. Back in those days, we women followed our husbands. Such a silly excuse. After all, look at Minerva. Let's put it this way, Dede adds. I followed my husband. I didn't get involved. I can understand that, the interview woman says quickly, as if protecting Dede from her own doubts. It's still true in the States. I mean, most women I know, their husband gets a job in Texas, say, well, Texas it's going to be. I've never been to Tejas, Dede says absently. Then, as if to redeem herself, she adds, I didn't get involved until later. When was that? The woman asks. Dede admits it out loud. When it was already too late. The woman puts away her pad and pen. She digs around in her purse for her keys, and then she remembers she stuck them in the ashtray of the car so she could find them easily. She is always losing things. She says it like a boast. She gives several recent examples in her confused Spanish. Dede worries this woman will never find her way back to the main road in the dark. Such a thin woman, with flyabout hair in her face. Whatever happened to hairspray? Her niece Minu's hair is the same way, all this fussing about the something layer in outer space, and meanwhile they walk around looking like something from outer space. Why don't I lead you out to the Anacuita turn, she offers the interview woman. You drive? They are always so surprised. And not just the American women who think of this as an underdeveloped country where they should still be riding around in a carriage with a mantilla over her hair, but her own nieces and nephews, and even her sons tease her about her little Subaru. They're Mamá Dede, a modern woman. Epa! But in so many other ways, I have not changed, Dede thinks. Last year, during her prize trip to Spain, the smart-looking Canadian man approached her, and though it had been 10 years already since the divorce, Dede just couldn't give herself that little fling. I'll make it fine, the woman claims, looking up at the sky. Wow, the light is almost gone. Night has fallen. Out on the road, they hear the sound of a car hurrying home. The interview woman bids Dede farewell, and together they walk through the darkened garden to the side of the house where the rented Datsun is parked. A car nears and turns into the drive, its headlights beaming into their eyes. Dede and the woman stand paralyzed like animals caught in the beams of an oncoming car. Who could this be? Dede wonders aloud. Your next compromiso, no? The interview woman says. Dede is reminded of her lie. Yes, of course, she says as she peers into the dark. Buenas, she calls out. It's me, Mamá Dede. Minou calls back. The car door slams. Dede jumps. Footsteps hurry towards them. What on earth are you doing here? I've told you 1,000 times. Dede scolds her niece. She doesn't care any more if she is betraying her lie. Minou knows, all of her nieces know, that Dede can't bear for them to be on the road after dark. If their mothers had only waited until the next morning to drive back over that deserted mountain road, they might still be alive, to scold their own daughters about the dangers of driving at night. Ya, Mama Dede. Minou bends down to kiss her aunt. Having taken after both her mother and father, she's a head taller than Dede. It just so happens I was off the road an hour ago. There's a pause, and Dede already guesses what Minou is hesitating to say, for therein awaits another scold. I was over at Fela's. Any messages from the girls? Dede says smartly. Beside her she can feel the eager presence of the interview woman. Can't we sit down first? Minou says. There is some emotion in her voice that they can't quite make out. She has soured her niece's welcome, scolding her the minute she gets out of her car. Come, you're right. Forgive your old aunt's bad manners. Let's go have a limonada. I was just on my way out, the interview woman reminds Dede. To Minou she adds, I hope to see you again. We haven't even met, Minou smiles. Dede apologizes for her oversight and introduces the woman to her niece. Oh, dear, what a mishmash of gratitude follows. The interview woman is delirious at the good fortune of meeting both sister and daughter of the heroine of the 14th of June Underground. Dede cringes. She had better cut this off. Unlike their aunt, the children won't put up with this kind of overdone gush. But Minou is chuckling away. Come, see us again, she offers. And Dede, forced to rise to this politeness, adds, yes, now you know the way. I went to see Fela, Minou begins after she is settled with a fresh lemonade. Dede hears her niece swallow some emotion. What could be wrong? Dede wonders. Gently now she prods Minou. Tell me what the girls had to say today. That's just it, Minou says, her voice still uneven. They wouldn't come. Fela says they must finally be at rest. It was strange hearing that. I felt sad instead of glad. Her last tie, however tenuous to her mother. So that's what the emotion is all about, Dede thinks. Then it strikes her. She knows exactly why Fela was getting a blackout this afternoon. Don't you worry, Dede pats her niece's hand. They're still around. Minou scowls at her aunt. Are you making fun again? Dede shakes her head. I swear they've been here all afternoon. Minou is watching her aunt for any sign of irony. Finally she says, all right. Can I ask you anything, just like I do Fela? Dede laughs uneasily. Go on. Minou hesitates, and then she says it right out. What Dede suspects everyone has always wanted to ask her, but which some politeness kept them from. Trust Minerva's incarnation to confront Dede with the question she herself has avoided. I've always wondered, you all were so close, why you didn't go along with them. Certainly she remembers everything about that sunny afternoon, a few days into the new year, when Patria, Mate, and Minerva came over to see her. She had been preparing a new bed in the garden, enjoying the rare quiet of an empty house. The girl had the day off, and as usual, on a Sunday afternoon, Jaimito had gone to the big gallera in San Francisco, this time taking all 3 boys. Dede wasn't expecting them back till late. From Mama's house on the main road, her sisters must have seen Jaimito's pickup drive away without her and hurried to come over and pay Dede this surprise visit. When she heard a car stop in front of the house, Dede considered taking off into the cacao grove. She was getting so solitary. A few nights ago, Jaimito had complained that his mother had noticed that Dede wasn't her old lively self. She rarely dropped by Doña Leila's anymore with a new strain of hibiscus she'd sprouted or a batch of pastelitos she'd made from scratch. Miss Sonrisa was losing her smiles all right. Dede had looked at her husband, a long look as if she could draw the young man of her dreams out from the bossy, old-fashioned macho he'd become. "Is that what your mother says?" He'd brought this up as he sat in slippers in the Galleria, enjoying the cool evening. He took a final swallow from his rum glass before he answered, "That's what my mother says. Get me another one, would you, Mommy?" He held out the glass, and Dede had gone obediently to the icebox in the back of the house, where she burst into tears. What she wanted to hear from him was that he had noticed. Just his saying so would have made it better, whatever it was. She herself wasn't sure what. So when she saw her 3 sisters coming down the path that afternoon, she felt pure dread. It was as if the 3 fates were approaching, their scissors poised to snip the knot that was keeping Dede's life from falling apart. She knew why they had come. Patria had approached her in the fall with a strange request. Could she bury some boxes in one of the cacao fields in back of their old house? Dede had been so surprised. "Why, Patria, who put you up to this?" Patria looked puzzled. "We're all in it, if that's what you mean. But I'm speaking for myself." "I see," Dede had said, but really what she saw was Minerva in back of it all. Minerva agitating. No doubt she had sent Patria over rather than come herself, since she and Dede were not getting along. It had been years since they had fought openly. Since Leo, wasn't it? But recently their hot little exchanges had started up again. What could Dede say? She had to talk to Jaimito first. Patria had given her a disappointed look, and Dede had gotten defensive. "What? I should go over Jaimito's head? It's only fair. He's the one farming the land. He's responsible for this place." "But can't you decide on your own, then tell him?" Dede stared at her sister, disbelieving. "That's what I did," Patria went on. "I joined, and then I talked Pedrito into joining me." "Well, I don't have that kind of marriage," Dede said. She smiled to take the huffiness out of her statement. "What kind of marriage do you have?" Patria looked at her with that sweetness on her face that could always penetrate Dede's smiles. Dede looked away. "It's just that you don't seem yourself," Patria continued, reaching for Dede's hand. "You seem so, I don't know, withdrawn. Is something wrong?" It was Patria's worried tone more than her question that pulled Dede back into that abandoned part of herself where she had hoped to give love and to receive it, in full measure, both directions. Being there, she couldn't help herself. Though she tried giving Patria another of her brave smiles, Miss Sonrisa burst into tears. After Patria's visit, Dede had talked to Jaimito. As she expected, his answer was an adamant no. But beyond what she expected, he was furious with her for even considering such a request. The Mirabal sisters liked to run their men, that was the problem. In his house, he was the one to wear the pants. "Swear you'll keep your distance from them." When he got upset, he would just raise his voice. But that night, he grabbed her by the wrists and shoved her on the bed, only, he said later, to make her come to her senses. "Swear!"